Modernist buildings back then were commissioned by expats to internationally educated architects. This story of modernism starts with a woman who often goes unnoticed when one talks about Sri Lanka. Brought up with values of feminism and pluralism, this architectural genius was Minette de Silva. Her architecture was solely responsible for introducing modernism in Sri Lanka. Minette's work during 1948 to mid-1960s overtly displayed the problems of post-coloniality, which was exposed as a precarious balance of Eastern and Western cultures, than merely an aesthetic resolution. Following Minette, we had Geoffrey Bawa, the lawyer-turned-architect, whose work during the 1950s to 1970s gave modernism in Sri Lanka a unique identity. After Sri Lanka became independent, it had turned into a welfare state. And while that did a lot of good to the people, the government unfortunately lost most their money by 1950. Strict restrictions were placed on the import of building materials. It was at this point when Bawa's work shifted significantly away from the purity of modernism to something new. It was at this point when a new path was being paved for a new style of architecture in the country. Bawa kept in mind the modernist ideals and built using local materials, found locally, sourced locally, and with local labor and skilled craftsmen. These materials made him build by extending tradition, or using the vernacular in a modified manner, for the purpose of creating a new architectural language, with a modernist approach, and for raising the status and value of traditional architecture, thus creating a national identity. This neo-regionalism patronized by Bawa, by the 1970s, became the flagship architectural style of Sri Lanka, especially in the elite domestic architectural environment. In the design of residences, he employed two main strategies: the courtyard idea as an urban house, and the built being embedded into the landscape. The next character in the story of modernism is Anjalandran, who took Bawa's concepts to an everyday level and simplified them. He worked towards breaking down the barrier between the inside and outside spaces. This would again become one of the defining principles of the country's elite domestic architecture. Channa Daswate is the final character in this story. He worked with both Bawa and Anjalandran. Channa took the philosophies of both his mentors and turned them into a contemporary language of architecture, which we see in Sri Lanka today.